We talk a lot about digital transformation, but I will not talk about the whole of that slide. I'll talk about the first one. The 4 enablers for digital transformation is connectivity and others. So under connectivity, of course, we have 4G and 5G coverage. Mobile broadband experience is very important. In Kenya, unless the statistics have changed, I think about 99.5% of our internet connectivity is on mobile. That's why 4G is so important. And I think even for Africa, the average is quite high. We don't have a lot of fixed broadband. So 5G is playing a very big role in the digital transformation of our continent, both from the supply side and from the demand side. And one of the issues is, as James said, is affordability of devices. It's a very important aspect. So 5G is important in the digital transformation of Africa as we go towards the dream of a single digital market under the African Free Trade arrangement. So, what value does 5G bring? As developing countries, which our continent is, we know that deploying fiber is very expensive. James said that we are lucky that in Kenya we have fiber. There is almost, he mentioned a very high figure. We know that currently we have the digital superhighway, 100,000 kilometers of fiber, but it will take a lot of money. 3 years ago, before I left government, we were being told for every kilometer, I think you need like 2 million shillings. So if you're going 100,000 kilometers, that's 200 billion Kenya shillings. At that time, the shilling to the dollar, I think, was like 78 shillings. Now it's like 130. So where is that money going to come from? And then you have to fix you have to have connectivity to every home state. We believe that you can actually use 5G to accelerate the digital, the connectivity and health digital transformation. Actually, I have a figure there that generally 87% of broadband connections in developing countries through mobile. So, and although when we first got our first mobile networks, we were really impressed. We used to put the big ones, we put them on the table, only receiving calls to the internet. Now we use it to do business. We think with 5G, the impact is still going to be profound. So we haven't yet finished with the mobile connectivity. I think James has already talked about the speeds, so I would not talk about that. Very high speeds. And so by enabling faster connectivity, it is possible that we can have more efficient service delivery from manufacturing, public service. You can imagine with Kenya, 80% of services, I think, are online, maybe even more. You don't need to go to a public office to get services. If you have a 5G phone with a good connectivity, you can actually transact on eCitizen. These days, everything you do in Kenya through eCitizen, right? And you can't do eCitizen on 3G. James, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You either do 4G or 5G. So that's important. The World Economic Forum says that 5G, this is some time back, 5G will change the world even more profoundly. Remember my first slide, it will be equivalent to electricity or the car when it was first, or even maybe when fire was discovered. So this is the impact that 5G is likely to make. And then if we can deliver fiber-like speeds, as James told us, then 5G will provide us economic benefits for the development of our continent. So, very busy slide, but I just want to, hope I can point, yes, this one, just look at this one. We are told by those who know that a 10% increase in mobile broadband results in, depending on who you ask or where you live, but we live in developing countries, it's between 2.5, between 1.5 and about 1.5 impact on GDP. Isn't that interesting? So if 5G is going to, if we increase, so James, if we increase your connectivity by 10%, you'll have contributed, according to the World Bank, I think others, 1.5% of GDP. So we don't need to do anything else. We just need to give Safaricom money, they roll out 5G, And we can meet our targets. Maybe not. Look, I'm exaggerating a bit, but I think we are told that digital connectivity has a profound impact on how, because of the way we conduct business. Then if you go to the next slide, again, it's being said that this was done by called Arthur D. Little. Arthur D. Little is a consulting firm, but many years ago in a previous life, there used to be a management school, and actually I'm a graduate of that school. They used to do project management and project analysis. They were based out of Cambridge in Boston, Massachusetts, but now they do consulting. So they say that 5G is likely to contribute quite a bit to the global GDP. Whoops, sorry. So globally, this just shows the deployment of 5G deployed in Africa and in the rest of the world. I think you can look at that later. So in Africa, we find that the level of readiness of 5G deployment is still low, but it's influenced by many factors. Some are internal, some are external. Energy, cost of equipment, cost of devices, cost of data, capacity building. People may not know that they can actually use 5G devices to transact. The Africa Telecom Union carried out a survey about 2 years ago when we participated in as members in writing a status paper on 5G readiness. And 59% of the countries, they responded, they indicated that they already have in their existing frameworks, policy, legal and regulatory frameworks, and in their strategies, provision for 5G deployment. So African countries are also thinking about this. They may not have deployed, but already they are thinking about this as a transformative technology. Now, James talked about spectrum and the KCA and how they have been facilitated. One of the things we say that the countries say that they license spectrum on technology neutrality basis. Now, looking at frequencies, I think James they're only on 2.6 and 3.4. But there's a host of frequencies that have been actually set aside through work through the ITU. And this is a result of that questionnaire done by ITU. And it shows the frequencies are very popular. You see this here, the C-band. So Safaricom is somewhere here. The others are here. This is the 2.6. It's quite, it's very, very popular for 5G. So and by the way, I just use green. I'm not trying to get anything from Safaricom. It's just a choice of color. So James, relax. So status of 5G in the continent. So this just tells you those who are planning, those who are evaluating, those who are deploying, and those who have deployed already. So the colors are different. You can see on this side of the continent, we're actually doing very well. You see? Yeah. There, we are here. Chair lady, you are okay. Yeah. Namibia. But now Namibia now has 5G. I think this is a bit dated. This is from last year by GSA. This is from GSA. Because I know that Namibia did carry out a consultation, 5G, and I know they have 5G. So this needs to be updated. So actually, if you bring Namibia, then it means East and Southern Africa are doing well. I know other countries here have also moved on, but yeah, there's still some work to be done. But that's just a snapshot. Again, based on information. So it is predicted by 2030, which is not very far away, more than half the mobile connections in the world will be 5G. And where do we stand on the continent? I tried, again, this is taken from GSMA intelligence. I looked for Kenya, I couldn't find it, but I was happy to see that South Africa is here. This is today, and they are likely to go up, and Nigeria is here. So hopefully again next year if I'm invited, Kenya and Uganda and Namibia will be somewhere here. But this is just a snapshot again of what the status is like. So when with that survey that we ATU did, people were asked questions on what would be important for them to consider when purchasing a device. The first one is battery life. Remember, we don't have a lot of electricity. Second one is durability. I don't know whether it means how many years or it means you can throw it at somebody and it hits the wall and it still works. Okay, shouldn't say that. Security of data is very important. If I go down, 74% say the ability to connect to 5G. Remember my phone that connects 5G. So I'm among these 74%. So things like speed, sustainability, large screen size, eSIM, AI capabilities, those ranked a bit less. But you see, connectivity to 5G, despite the fact that our 5G deployment is still low in the continent. So very important, of course. So these are important. So when you are looking for those devices, James, that you said come under 5,000, consider all these facts, at least until connected to 5G, the ones above that. Camera quality is important because we are on TikTok. Yeah. You talked about use cases. The survey by ATU brought out these use cases. This was deliberately made small so that you can't read it, so that I can tell you about it. The first one, even me, I can't read, is use cases. Improved broadband connectivity and internet access, fixed wireless access, number one. Number two, smart cities, enhanced digital financial services. I'm sorry, I think this screen is distorting my health. Right, health is number four. Smart power grids. Kenya Pan lighting. Maybe if they embrace 5G, we would be having less power outages. But so far, I think in Diani, we haven't had any incident since we came, right? And all this. So all these are consideration. So Safaricom identified some use cases, and I think all those. The one that is not here, but you've already deployed in Kenya is what do you call VR, virtual reality. But we can use it for in other sectors. So these are the important use cases that were considered in that ATU survey. So going back to what I was supposed to talk about in the beginning, so I should have just come here and said, so why does it matter today and in future about 5G? 5G, as I said, is very widespread. So half of the population is now covered by 5G generally, and that's a milestone for global connectivity. Remember when James said that the move from 2G to 3G was fast, 4G, 3G to 4G was very fast, 4G to 5G is even faster. And again, 5G standalone that James talked about is gaining momentum. And we think that 5G, the standalone, is laying the framework or the foundation for high performance, low latency services that will drive innovation in all sectors that we listed. And I think James talked about that. And then as that first slide where we are going from 5G to IoT to cloud to all that, the next one that we are thinking about is 6G. So 5G Advanced is going to lay the groundwork for the next generation of connectivity, where we are connecting everything and we want automation and we want to really have efficient delivery of services. And it's going to have a much more impact than others. And lastly, so what do we need to do as Africans to make sure our continent is connected? So if we are to really reap the benefits of 5G, we must all work together, public sector, private sector. my friends from government, former friends from the regulator, and me as somebody who is now in industry, we must work together. It's not just one person's job. Roadmaps. It's important to have roadmaps. Because if you have a roadmap, then if somebody wants to deploy networks, then you know they'll deploy in this band. You know which devices are there in the ecosystem, so that you deploy networks that can be used. And James talked about sufficient spectrum. I think that one I cannot talk about. That's for CA to see how the system looks like. And it's important that we establish regulatory frameworks that support the implementation of locally relevant 5G use cases. There are countries that may have different use cases, but we need to look at the problems we face as African countries and see how 5G can help us solve those problems. And then incentives, regulators and government, please, let's incentivize people for 5G. James talked about infrastructure and other value-added services. And this one, just to provoke regulators, try and use this thing here, USF. We are told there's a lot of money in USF. Indeed. It's a rumor, maybe. Me, I just had a rumor, I don't know. I have no evidence. If indeed there's money, could we have a deliberate effort to try and use these USFs to fund 5G deliberately for some of the use cases that we've identified, be it health, be it education, be it migration, which earns us a lot of money. If we can get every year 1 billion viewers watching migration, then maybe we take part of USF and put it in putting up a permanent feature. No, dangerous grounds, slippery ground. And lastly, I've put a link. If you go to the ATU website, you'll find the whole report on the 5G preparedness in Africa and relevant use cases. So we are talking about digital transformation of our continent. We are talking about innovation. We're talking about job creation, and all this will be facilitated by connectivity. And most of our people use mobile phones. So I think going forward, I hope I've been able to convince that going forward, actually, we need to make deliberate efforts to support the deployment of 5G as, of course, amongst other technologies, but mainly 5G as the latest mobile technology, so that we can achieve the objectives of what we want to have, an African one single digital market for Africa. Thank you very much.